let's say. Okay, once again, just saying hi to everybody who's coming in. We're going to get started in about another minute, just giving people a chance to log on and get settled before we jump into the talk. Yes, it's live. It's not started yet. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Hi, everybody who's here. My name is Arielle Myers. I am the Chief Curator at Union Hall. And tonight I am here with a couple of lovely folks involved with our current exhibition, Mirror Mirror. Just a refresher or kind of intro for anybody who is new to Union Hall. We are a nonprofit arts exhibition space in downtown Denver, and we support diverse emerging artists and showcase groundbreaking, hopefully, exhibitions and act as a multidisciplinary space for all kinds of performance. I am really pleased to bring today Mary Grace Bernard and Genevieve Waller, who are the guest curators for our current exhibition, Mirror Mirror, which is part of our Rough Gems exhibition series. The exhibition has been up for about a week and a half, 10 days, and will continue to run until the 20th. And tonight we're just going to be talking a little bit more about the exhibition with the curators. We have some of the artists here to speak with. So first, I would just like to kick it over to Genevieve and MG to kind of introduce yourselves. And if you could also, since you're both artists, could you talk a little bit about your art practice and any of the other creative ventures that you are involved in around town?
Mary Grace, do you want to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. Yeah, hi, my name is Genevieve Waller. Thanks for attending this event. Yeah, I'm an artist based in Denver, but I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas. That's my hometown. I think my mom's watching. Hi, Mom. And yeah, in the background, you can see a cyanotype by Anna Atkins from the 1840s, a cameraless photograph. And that's been my main art interest, love since high school, I think. I made my first photograms, But so I'm making lots of black and white photograms these days because color darkrooms are scarce. But I also make sculpture. I'm making a video right now, drawings, and I am part of a art collective in Denver called Secret Love Collective. We've done performances and installations and parades, banners, all sorts of things. And yeah, I run an art magazine in Denver that started in the fall of 2019. It's called DARIA, which is an acronym for Denver Art Review, Inquiry, and Analysis. It's online at dariamag.com and in print 3 times a year. The new spring print issue just came out. And yeah, I'll hand it over to Mary Grace.
Hi, I'm Mary Grace Bernard. My art practice is mainly performance art, which means I use my body as the medium, and a lot of my work centers around disability and my experience with cystic fibrosis, living with cystic fibrosis. I also write for Daria. I do art writing, and then also do curatorial projects. And I also run a small art publication called Study, and we do academic art journals and art zines, and they are online for accessibility, and we really work to amplify marginalized voices in our world. Yeah, currently I'm on the road to New Orleans because I have an artist residency starting Monday. So I'm in a hotel room.
Yeah. Awesome.
Jealous. We're so jealous.
I wish
we were going with you.
Paula and Emily, I would love if you two could both introduce yourselves as well so that people know who else we have in the chat.
Sure. I'm Emily Van Loan. I'm a filmmaker and artist currently based in Boulder, Colorado. I'm doing my MFA at CU Boulder. I'm in my 3rd year, so I'm currently working on a thesis film centered around my experience with a mental breakdown and hospitalization. And I make diaristic, personal, experimental films that are often autobiographical in nature.
Hi, I guess I'm next.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Paula Kell, and I'm an artist. Been doing it since a really young age. Have a traditional kind of drawing and sculpture background, but early on I started to concentrate in photography, and that's my practice is kind of focused around photography. I do a lot of collage and a lot of photo montage. My work has always been pretty social, political, feminist. It has a kind of a narrative. You can usually tell what's going on without words, but I sometimes have a lot of fun with the captions. And I'm just thrilled to be in the show at Union Hall and to meet everybody, and to be part of this exhibition has been a real joy. So I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Paula. So just to give everybody kind of an idea of the run of show, I'd like to start out just by talking through a few questions that we have about the exhibition. And those questions are going to be for Genevieve and MG. And then from there, I would like to turn it over to them to talk to the artists a little bit further, and just kind of talk through the work that you have in the exhibition. And then at the end, we will be taking questions. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can enter your questions into the YouTube chat, and we will be receiving those from Emma, who is moderating over there, and we'll kind of take some audience questions and do some discussion at the end. So jumping in, I think it's just good to address that this past year has really changed the shape of a lot of things in the art world and a lot of things in the world generally, between, you know, social unrest and movements for Black lives, as well as the pandemic. I just kind of wanted to see, you know, a check-in. How are you guys doing? How has it changed your practice as an artist, as a curator, as a writer? And, you know, how does that factor into your decision to propose Mirror Mirror for Rough Gems this year?
I guess we should have decided who's going to go first. Mary Grace, do you want to start a pattern where one of us goes first?
It's up to you. You can go first, or I can go first. Doesn't matter.
Why don't you go first this time? We'll alternate.
Okay, we'll alternate. I guess like I'll concentrate on answering how the pandemic has shaped my practice differently. And I think as far as performing in public art spaces goes, that's been pretty much non-existent. But yeah. But I mean, as far as how I approach things, it's the same, because I think for me as a person living with chronic illness, this hasn't changed, because the pandemic world is basically how I live, quote unquote, normally. So the private sphere and the internet is a huge part of my life. So it really hasn't changed much, which is why like I love the Femcele kind of platform as a all internet type of thing, where you can communicate and explore art and make art on the web. And that's a huge part, I think, of the disabled community as well. Yeah, and so I don't know if you want to jump on that, Genevieve.
Sure. Yeah, I was thinking when it comes to this exhibition, Mirror Mirror, that we put together, one thing that maybe, yeah, with, you know, us all living on the internet more and more because of the pandemic, that's related, is that out of the 6 artists in this exhibition, I only had ever met 2 of them in person before the exhibition. I think I sort of felt empowered to reach out to people that I just admired because I followed them on Instagram, or I saw their work on display somewhere and I loved it. And I thought, you know, we're all doing the online thing, and the etiquette is kind of changed. And I was hoping that a stranger reaching out who've never met before, it would somehow be okay that I said, I've been stalking you and I like your work. Part of this exhibition.
That's how I always feel when I reach out to an artist for the first time, even in like normal times. I'm always like, hey, I know a lot about you.
But yeah, personally, I would say one thing that's been good is that I'm doing a residency right now online. So I know, Mary Grace, you're traveling to be in person for your residency, but I'm doing a residency that's in the UK, but I'm online. Cool. And almost all the other artists are in England somewhere. So that really wouldn't have been possible with my day job to go away to the UK for a month. Definitely not during COVID, but even before, it probably wouldn't have been very possible. So it's definitely opened up new avenues for me as an artist. And I've had a more flexible schedule to do a lot of projects, and I've been staying pretty busy.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I think the online communities have really, and online programming in general has really gone through a renaissance. And I think in a lot of ways, you know, there's something that we can take from this going forward. Like, I think just having more online programming means that things can be more accessible to people all over the place. And I think it's something that a lot of artists and art organizations will continue. So there's a silver lining to the weirdness of this year. Kind of going into talking a little bit more about your show, in conceptualizing Mirror Mirror, you were thinking about the famous phrase, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all, which is a quote from the evil queen from Snow White. which is sort of maybe unknowingly to us as kids, it's really steeped in racial and gender politics. And the word fair is synonymous not only for beauty, but it also implies the superiority of light skin and physical beauty as a woman or femme's highest achievement. So could you talk a little bit more about this idea and sort of how you both arrived at this and kind of how you developed the show from that idea?
Sure, I'll go first since we're alternating. Yeah, my background is in photography. I have an MFA in photography and I've studied visual and cultural studies. So the politics of representation when it comes to photography are always, at the fore of my mind, and especially photographing human beings and, what kind of agency, or on the other end of the spectrum, how objectified is the subject of a photograph. So yeah, this phrase, also with the name Mirror Mirror, if you know about the history of photography, the daguerreotype is called the mirror with a memory. One of the first kinds of photography that was the daguerreotype on a metal plate, basically, and paper negative. And obviously the paper negative is kind of what won out when it comes to what continued on with photographic processes. But anyway, so yeah, the mirror and the camera, I think, are closely tied together. And we really wanted to propose an exhibition to coincide with the month of photography. So yeah, I think this phrase became kind of a, I don't know, multi-dimensional metaphorical kind of thing where it had that kind of automatic association. If you're, I guess, part of Western culture, you probably have heard of the fairy tale and that phrase. So in that way, maybe it's kind of accessible. But then, yeah, if you know about photography and how, yeah, it's about representation and often, yeah, the self and the other, that seemed kind of important too, or poignant. And then, yeah, there's actually an NPR article, I should have linked it somewhere, that gets into the history of this phrase and the history of the word fair in the English language, and how, yeah, originally, I don't know, 500 years ago, it definitely had a more just straight beauty kind of meaning. But then not too long after, within 100 years or so, it started to morph and really be associated with light skin and women in particular. So yeah, that kind of history that gets embedded in the language and then is just sort of inherited and not even thought about. And the fact that, the main character is named Snow White and female with very light skin. Yeah, I thought it seemed like it could be kind of a provocative and title that's accessible, but has all this deeper meaning that you can delve into.
Absolutely.
I'll turn it over to you, Mary Grace.
So cool to hear the full backstory too, because I think even just myself working with you, I knew that, the fairy tale was a big part of it, but I didn't know the photography angle. And I think that it's a really cool association. I'm really glad to have heard that part of the story. Sorry, MG.
Yeah, no worries. I forget that you're running the show too, so I'm just trying to run the show.
No, it's
too.
Yeah, I think when Genevieve and I got together to propose this, we made a giant list of all of our favorite artists, narrowed it down. And I think once we were looking at each artist's works that we liked the best, we just kind of fit them together and the theme just kind of emerged. And I think too, what's really important to me about these works is that it's about the artists taking agency over how they want to be viewed, which I really am close to, since that's a lot about what my artwork is like, where I'm making visible my own body and I'm showing how I want to be shown. And I think that's what a lot of these works are doing as well, which is also goes along with the idea of the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of touched a little bit on how you made the selections of artists and artworks for the exhibition, and that was going to be one of my questions as well. So you started out with that long list, and then what did the process look like from there in terms of selecting the artists and the work that are now in Mirror Mirror?
Yeah, so we had the long list and we looked at each individual artist's body of work, and yeah, we just kind of, we had a conversation over the phone and talked about which pieces we liked and why we liked them and how they kind of fit together. And it really just, it just kind of emerged, and we were just like, yeah, this is great. This is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think we were very much like on the same wavelength when we were thinking about the concept together.
Yeah, I'll add that the restrictions for Rough Gems proposals was that the artists be in the area. So we restricted our list to Boulder, Denver, and Colorado Springs. And then I think as we were choosing, there was also kind of a constraint of making sure there was varieties. And then, when it comes to photography, it's not just still images. So, or straight up camera images, like I make photograms like this in the background. So trying to sort of represent the medium in a few different forms. So Emily, who's here, makes films, actually makes 16 millimeter and 8 millimeter films with physical film, which is wonderful. And it's becoming rarer and rarer, I think, just like darkroom photography that I do. And then Paula making collages, but with found imagery and some of her own photographs that she creates, that she takes specifically to use in collage. I think that's a really interesting way to approach photography. With the history of collage that goes back to Picasso and Braque, and it's pasting, bits of newspaper and what have you onto the canvas. But as Paula said, photo montage is part of that. And so representing photography, and then the fact that I think, both Emily and Paula are in Boulder. Román in the show is at CU Boulder as well. Stacy Platt as a professor in Colorado Springs, and Lauren and Gabby are both in Denver. So it was also a matter of trying to show some artists whose work we haven't seen in Denver that much. I go to a lot of exhibitions because I love going to exhibitions, but also because of my magazine, and it's all about exhibition reviews and documenting the Denver art scene. And I wanted to give a platform for some artists whose work I haven't seen in Denver that much, and whose work I really like and think is really strong and more people should know about. So that was another important factor.
Absolutely. And I think you guys did a wonderful job with that in particular. And that was definitely one of the reasons why, we selected your exhibition. It's so nice to see like representation from one genre maybe, but just the diversity within that. And also, folks from all around the metro area. I wonder if you could just quickly talk a little bit more about the artists that are not here and what their work is like. That way, since we're going to kind of go into the artists that are here, and this will live on online afterwards, I would like to make sure we represent their work as well.
Yeah, should we show our PowerPoint presentation now? Would that make sense?
Oh yeah, I think that would be really helpful. Let's get a visual on it.
Mary Grace is going to share it because my computer wasn't cooperating. Perfect.
Can you see it?
Yes, looks great.
So I don't know if we should alternate again. Do you want to talk about Román's work, Mary Grace?
Sure. So these are the three photographs we have of Román in the exhibition. We actually decided to, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. So we decided to exhibit these on TV screens, TV monitors, rather than have Román print them and frame them and all that, because we originally saw them as digital photographs on Román's website, and they just glow, and they remind us of like being in a church, and the stained glass and the glow and the light from the sun entering through the stained glass. And on the screens, they just are extra illuminated. And these works in particular are kind of taking or mixing or gender mixing sorry. I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me? Because my computer keeps messing up big time.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't.
Okay. Yes, sorry. Okay. And then, yeah. And so these are just portraying people. Yeah. Genevieve, I don't know if you want to continue.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I saw the prints first, and then definitely we both, even the artists, loved how they looked on the screen.
They really do glow. It's so cool.
Yep. And the fact that they're digital images, so they're still in that digital realm, seemed to make sense. But yeah, I think, yeah, the way Román has made these photos, the subjects are sacred. And I love that because, you know, they're Latinx, masculine presenting, but with beautiful makeup and, you know, feminine coded costuming. The first subject with the red drapery is like a religious icon painting, and yet it's seemingly a Latin man. So that's not something we usually see, like the Virgin Mary. And so I love that Román made the subjects so put on a pedestal, on a throne, and looking back with confidence at the viewer, sort of aware of their own beauty and proud of it. I felt like, yeah, they fit so much with this theme of yeah, kind of challenging traditional beauty norms because of the gender bending, because of their brown skin, and because they're half naked and showing off their beautiful bodies. And in a beatific nature, or in the church where nude men, I think the only nude man allowed in the church is image of Christ, right? And it's usually a white male body. So yeah, lots of interesting challenges, and yeah, very well done. And yeah, Román, I know, does lots of digital painting in the background. So what they told me was that they photograph their subjects in the studio and then create this backdrop that's completely imaginary, but it's, yeah, also believable as photographic reality of sorts. Yeah, so yeah, it fit the theme, I thought, quite well.
Yeah, that's a great description.
And I know we have all 6 artists' works here, so we may as well scroll through and show Paula's works. I don't know, Paula, if you want to, since we're going to be looking at the digital versions, if you want to even tell us a little bit more about them.
Sure. I'll wait till Mary Grace. They're a little bit more vibrant when you see them in person. So this is my Superpower Women in Space series, and the center one is called Riding High Over the Ocean of Storms. So the central figure is kind of a gatekeeper, and she's only going to let you cross that bridge unless she wants to. So I just, for me, I'm not as, you know, for me, I have my original idea of how I envisioned this work. And I'm not too sure, Genevieve, you'd have to talk more about how it fits into the concept of the show. But basically, it's a friend of mine who I know from Boulder, and she's a singer. She's a political activist. She's a very dynamic person, and I just always love being around her. So I was thrilled she gave me like 30 minutes to get in the studio and take these photographs. And so she was actually wearing some of those outfits, and then a few things like the boots and the belt I kind of added. But I definitely wanted her to be kind of a figure of authority and somebody who was like not, kind of laughing because she was so confident, full of power, and that, she is the gatekeeper, which kind of changes a lot of the rules that we normally think. And I was also thinking about the history of all the things that have happened on bridges with the history of African American civil rights. And so that's why I have it like riding high over the ocean of storms. And so the ocean of storms refers to the Pettus Bridge, or after Katrina, where people were shot on bridges when they were trying to escape Katrina. So this for me is just, it's about sort of self-empowerment in this sort of fantastic space universe, which women kind of are very empowered in. And the one on the right is just a collage, just talking about being brave and sort of bravely speaking out into space. So it has a lot to do with women's voices and the kind of these open mouths and exuberance. And the one on the left is called Domestic Space. So this woman was there in advance of the lunar landing on Mars, and she was cleaning up. So it's just, I do a lot of vacuuming in Colorado. So it's sort of maybe a little bit about me always vacuuming. So it's about, I kind of make puns sometimes on the word space. So
I think that's really clever. I love that title.
yeah. But the series is ongoing. I'm going to keep adding to it. People seem to really enjoy when I photograph people, so I'll keep doing that. And sometimes I don't have a clear idea in advance when I start the collage. But I do use a lot of vintage materials, which usually comes from my husband's collection, a lot of Fortune magazines from the 30s. And so I do photograph a lot of paper things, and then I use a lot of public domain imagery. But I think the main thing for me is just the mirror that I'm sort of projecting is one of either tongue in cheek about women's issues or just kind of women's empowerment, and including all sorts of people of color, different races, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the empowerment comes across even without knowing the title of the series.
Thank you. So I guess that's it. I think I talked enough. If anybody has any questions, we'll go on to the next person.
Yeah, let's talk about the others, because yeah, Stacy Platt isn't here, and
Yeah, we may get some questions for Paula at the end as well, but just a reminder to anyone who's listening that you can type your questions into the chat and we will be able to read those at the end.
I can just talk a little bit about Stacy Platt's work. She told us this is the first time she's exhibited this series of photographs, but she took them, created them, I believe 20 years ago when she was a grad student in art school for photography in Chicago. And these are silver gelatin, black and white prints, fiber double weight prints, very fancy, nice paper that she's written on with a Sharpie marker, I believe, to tell this narrative about her part-time weekend job that she had while she was an art grad student working as a shot girl. So working at a bar, serving drinks, and it was a very lucrative job that helped her pay the way for grad school. And yeah, but I think it's kind of a documentary sort of photography, but she's photographing herself getting ready to go out to be a shot girl, putting on a wig, special clothes, waiting for the train. And she's there, at least till 4 a.m, Friday night and Saturday night. And she also documents some of the other people who work at the bar and, what they have to sort of endure, especially the other shot girls from male clientele. And yeah, the way we talked about it in our curatorial statement was about sort of the ruse of beauty that she she gets into this with the images and the text, talking about transforming herself to be this kind of ideal, and but also as a kind of armor, I think, so that she is a little bit less vulnerable. She, transforms herself so she doesn't look like her everyday self. But I think in the last image, if you can scroll down, she actually talks about, and actually this is a series with at least 20 images. We have these five in the show, but she talks about the fact that, so she calls herself Veronica when she's doing this job, but she's noticed that when she doesn't wear the wig and the flame pants and all the getup that she normally does, that she actually gets more tips. So yeah, I think that's interesting too, where the ruse of beauty and idealized beauty, fashion magazine cover beauty, it works to a certain extent, but then somehow, I don't know, maybe the vulnerability of seeing her natural hair or something like that also speaks to people. So yeah, that I liked her series because I think unlike all the others, this one really is trying to tell her real life story of this job that she did that is probably not something that people in the art world really respect, or maybe in general, but something that people do to make ends meet, something that she did as a student. I don't know. Did I leave out anything?
Are there more images, Mary Grace? Or did we see them all?
Those are all the ones by Stacy.
Oh, okay.
And we have Gabby too. I don't know, Mary Grace, did you want to add anything about Stacy's work?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. But yeah, definitely shot with a camera, with real film, printed in the darkroom. So that's, a very traditional notion of photography that has now become a lot more rare in the digital realm.
I guess I can talk a little bit about Gabby's work. So originally we had thought that these photographs were of the Denver Kiki sessions, but are they of a specific subsect of the Denver Kiki sessions?
Yeah, it's the House of Flora. We learned that. Yeah. So I think maybe Kiki Sessions is a larger umbrella for lots of different groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I did not know about Gabby's work. Genevieve had sent me her work, and we just really loved how she posed her subjects and showered them in these really nice, beautiful bouquets of flowers. And we loved the kind of like the, I guess, loose studio quality of these, where they're out in the field, but just really the fabric draped, but you can still see kind of the industrialness of Denver in the background. So it's kind of mixing, natural setting with studio setting, but playing with the natural light. And especially this one that's horizontal, looking at the two horizontal ones where the subjects are looking at the viewer. We really liked that idea of going back to Genevieve saying that, the camera as the mirror. So I think that's what really struck us about Gabby's images. And we also have these on the TV monitors in the gallery space to keep them as digital images, and mixing the mediums so that not everything was just the photographs. And so we had, the different type of the film, and then the TV monitors to make it a little bit more diverse.
Yeah, and like with Román's work, having the glowing quality also made these feel more sacred. The subjects, more elevated, I think, too. And yeah, I totally agree with what Mary Grace said about the mixing of like perfect styling, beautiful flowers that are, pretty much probably not wildflowers, definitely bouquets that you buy at the floral shop or whatever, but in this setting of brown grass and grain elevators and whatever warehouses, that mix, and then the kind of conscious impromptu backdrop that is blowing in the wind. So it's not the perfect fashion shoot. It's consciously not that. So yeah, the subjects, I think we can just tell by the way they're looking at us and the way that they're presenting themselves, have styled themselves in a way that is what they want to look like, and is way fancier than what a brownfield industrial Denver calls for.
Yeah, and I think too with Román's works, as well as Gabby's, when we have them on the TV monitors in the space, it's the way the monitors are hung up, or they're on pedestals, and I think it's like putting these subjects on pedestals as well as beautiful human beings, which is really nice.
Agreed.
Should we move on to Emily?
Yeah, and I feel like we should just ask Emily to talk about these films, because these are just still images, obviously, of the films. So Emily, please tell us more.
Yeah. So I've got 3 films in the exhibition in collaboration, Van Loan et al. 2019 and Who Wants to Fall in Love. Van Loan et al. 2019 is a digital video that is made from an MRI of my brain that I luckily got from participating in a scientific study at CU. I think they paid me $70 and I finessed them into giving me a CD with these images on it, knowing that I would make something of it. So this film balances my own personal journal entries with scientific writing about self-disclosure and self-reflection, and thinks about the basis of that in neuroscience, which is actually part of my background. I have a Bachelor of Science in Integrative Neuroscience, and I actually almost did a PhD in neuroscience until I realized that actually I wanted to be an artist. So a lot of the text that appears in this film is citations from scientific journal articles in the APA style that I learned while studying neuroscience. And then in collaboration, which is on the previous page, is a portrait of all the men I've fallen in love with. So I had the inkling to make this portrait and decided that it would be a true collaboration, in that I would reach out to all of these men and ask them to provide some sample of themselves in some way, their writing, their voice, etc., their image, to create a portrait of each of them, and then combine that into a group so that their individuality is less important. And so it came out of one of my ex-boyfriends showed me an audio recording he made when he was in a a special mental state. And he just like rambles about trees in like a really silly way that is like very him. And I realized that it was a great way to understand him as a person. And I wondered if there was a way to understand the other men that I've fallen in love with as people, and like to portray like the things that make them lovely. So I used recordings from 2 other men that I actually made originally without their knowledge, but obviously now they know about it. And they were all totally fine with me using those recordings when I asked them. But so that makes the recordings all the more kind of vulnerable, I think, because they don't seem to be, or some of them don't seem to be performing in a way that they might if they knew they were being recorded. And then for one of the portraits, I actually met up with one of my ex-boyfriends and made images of his body, because that felt like an important aspect of his self. And then Who Wants to Fall in Love is a kind of an exercise in introspection, in that I also use my journal entries, but I flip the pronoun from I to you to impose my own experiences onto the viewer, and to create space for the viewer to engage in their own self-reflection as I explore spaces around Boulder that feel connected to these ideas that I'm proposing to my viewer. And like all my work, they're all very personal and autobiographical, and mostly made on film.
Yeah, I liked how in the credits for In Collaboration, you mentioned how the images, most of the images are of places where you fell in love, because yeah, the image and the sound of the man talking about something, they don't coincide, and you don't know until the very end of the film that what the camera is showing you is the significant place. And so then it all falls together, I think, at the end. At least it did for me as a viewer.
Thank you. Yeah. Part of the process was also visiting places that I no longer lived, but that felt important to those relationships, and felt like the like in the story of this like relationship, that was the place that we fell in love. So yeah, I like I had already been in Colorado at that time, so I had to travel to like various cities in New York State, to like my hometown and like my college town, in order to to create these images. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that as an artist you did that. I feel like, yeah, that's what artists do, and that it would, yeah, other people would think that was crazy to spend your time doing that, but it's perfect in my book.
Thank you.
This is the last artist out of the 6 in the show. Yeah, Emily, sorry, I thought I had a couple images from Who Wants to Fall in Love, but I don't know what happened. Oh, they got mixed up. There they are.
There they are.
Yeah, and you mentioned to me, I think at the opening reception, that this film is being shown in a lot of festivals.
Yeah, that's my most shown film. Yeah.
So yeah, people can come to the gallery and catch it. They don't have to attend a film festival to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this one, I love what you did with the stencils. And I actually saw the stencils on display outside of your studio recently in Boulder, and that you hand cut these and painted the cardboard, and they're art objects in and of themselves, I think is a neat thing, of kind of an artifact of the process of making the film, but also works of art on their own.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm really interested in like the the tediousness of making films, because I work mostly on film. There are so many factors that have to go into the filmmaking, and sometimes I put myself through even more tediousness, like cutting these letters line by line into cardboard that I used to move to Colorado to make this film about like my experience and like my transition into Colorado life.
Very cool. I like that backstory. And yeah, I don't know if Mary Grace, do you want me to talk about Lauren's work really briefly, or do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, Lauren is one of the artists who I knew before we put together the exhibition. I knew Emily too because of the gallery that she runs with a couple of other artists in Boulder. But yeah, like me, Lauren works in the black and white darkroom, and I had seen some of her work from another series at an exhibition during the month of photography, a few months of photography ago. And so yeah, I was an admirer of her work. And this series, she's working in the darkroom, obviously with images that camera images, so working with film, but then she's overlaying during the printing process drawings that she made of particular plants, line art drawings on top of the image. So it is actually like a photogram in that way. It's a mix of a film image with a photogram image. Yeah, and I don't know if you want to say more, Mary Grace, about the content of the images. We kind of had our own interpretation.
I think these kind of go along with the theme of Mirror Mirror, because she's blurring the physical and I guess ideological of human bodies and nature, and kind of bringing them together as two beautiful life forms. And yeah, I think we really thought they were just really beautiful and really kind of subtle, and a little bit more abstract than you know, a full figure looking at the viewer. Yeah, since we only see hands and arms coming out like plants.
Yeah, the way they're disembodied, I feel like, is kind of like in a surrealist tradition where, yeah, it's like a dream, or yeah, not seeing the whole body. It's like parts floating in space, but then, yeah, they also seem to, not only are they imitating plants, but they have a little bit of a narrative, or feel like a dance, sort of like choreography.
Yeah, and I think we liked these two just because they're, again, using photography and the tradition of photography differently. So just providing another example of how yeah, photography can span beyond just taking a photograph.
Yeah, definitely constructed images. So yeah, I think that's the end of our PowerPoint with all images from all 6 artists in the exhibition.
Awesome. I'm so glad we could spend time going through each of them, because I think all of these little backstories sort of piece together what we spent some time talking about in the beginning. And it's great to have the images there and recorded along with the talk. I have a few more questions, and then we can open up for a question or two from the audience. I did want to talk a little bit about the zine that was created to go along with Mirror Mirror. So for those who are listening and don't know, one of the sort of programming components of Mirror Mirror was a crowdsourced digital zine, which included self-portraits or portraits generally that involve the use of mirrors. And we invited, anyone who was in the reach of our social media to submit, and MG and Genevieve graciously compiled all of these images, and the zine will be available probably before the end of the week on our website. And of course, we'll be announcing when you'll be able to see that. But having seen the behind the scenes, I just thought it was so striking how people interpreted mirror, mirror, and the idea of it, for themselves and through their own lens, literally. And so I just wondered if you could tell me a little bit about, that process, and as you were putting it together, how you feel the zine supports the exhibition.
Yeah, so I think we wanted to bring in the audience participation, since we're really trying to look back at ourselves, and so we wanted to invite viewers to also look back at themselves and provide images of themselves in a mirror. And I think we had to think about how we wanted to compile the images and how we wanted to make that accessible to everybody. And since both Genevieve and I do a lot of art publication zines and magazines, we thought that the zine would be a perfect fit. And we didn't, we wanted to make it accessible, so we're having it online, and so that people can download it and print it if they wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was fun to see the way people interpreted the prompts that we gave them. Some people didn't follow the prompts. Some I was like, I think this does. And some were very literal. One of the prompts was to take a photograph of a beloved object that speaks to your identity with a makeup mirror, a dental mirror, a hand mirror, any mirror you had. And one of the photographs, the artist did use a dental mirror, and I loved that.
Cool.
I thought that was so cool. She followed the directions to a T.
Yeah.
There's a wide variety, and some people I didn't know at all, some friends of mine that I was so pleased to see them submit. I had fun working through looking at all the images, and definitely take a look at that. Hopefully we were talking about maybe even by tomorrow it might be up on the site, and you can actually download it and print it out, as Mary Grace said.
Awesome. Great. And I have one more question for you guys before we jump into potentially some audience questions. I know Emma is going to start forwarding those to me now so that I have them. So final question, if you all, and that includes Paula and Emily, if you'd like to talk a little bit about upcoming projects for you, Daria, Femcele, any of the artists in Mirror Mirror, any final plugs, where can people find you and what are you up to next?
Go ahead, Paula.
Yeah, so I have a show up right now. It's called Trigger Warnings in North Boulder. It's part of the Noble Art District. It's just an industrial space that our management company has kindly let us use, and it hadn't been used in a whole year, and so I just signed up for it and I got it. And for the month of photography, it's vintage work from the 70s and 80s. And then it's juxtaposed with my husband's images from the 70s from Aspen, and also a 2.5-hour video of TV stills that he took over 2020 just off the news. So it has, it's called 2020 PTSD, and it's just news images. And you could imagine with COVID and the wildfires and all the protests and all the political stuff, it's a very intense kind of look. So it sort of brings this show up to the present and talks about cultural trauma as opposed to like personal trauma. A lot of my photographs are from maybe just experience that I've had. And so I just like the fact that we also have this new piece that kind of brings us from the 70s all the way up to present time. And that's up through the end of, well, it's going to actually be up through Boulder Arts Week. So like the first week in April it'll be up.
Awesome.
And they can find it on the Month of Photography website. It's listed there.
Yeah, we should plug also that the Month of Photography is currently ongoing for the rest of the month of March. I think it even trickles into April a bit. And the website for Month of Photography, we also have linked on Mirror Mirror's page on the Union Hall website. So if you want to visit unionhalldenver.org, you can find the zine, you can find a link to Month of Photography, and there's so many great exhibitions and events and talks and things ongoing during the rest of the month. So I would highly recommend checking that out and checking all the fabulous artists who are involved with Month of Photography out. Emily, do you want to give us your report next?
Yeah, I actually have a film showing in the Ann Arbor Film Festival in late March. I think it's the 27th it'll be showing. It's a film called A Watched Cunt Never Comes. Sorry if you have to bleep this out in like
Okay.
it's a film that likens a pot of water coming to a boil to a woman coming to orgasm. It's very simple. And I'm working on my thesis film, hopefully that, and my thesis exhibition in the CU Art Museum, which, yeah, it's gonna be great.
Awesome.
I'm so glad to hear your films will be in the art museum. I wasn't sure if the film students would get to exhibit there.
Yeah, I have the chance to make a video installation specifically for that exhibition as well. So it'll be a film screening, framed art therapy works that I've made, as well as a video installation.
Cool. I can't wait to see it. I know Román, who's in the exhibition, Mirror Mirror, will, I think, also be in that thesis exhibition, hopefully. I think that's what I heard.
At some point, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So that's great.
Awesome. And then, yeah, Genevieve, if you want to go next.
Yeah, since I'm already talking, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of different projects. I mentioned the artist residency that I'm doing that's through this organization in the UK called the Land Art Agency. So it's a group of artists who are basically concerned with the environment, and they have workshops and classes and exhibitions and projects. And so this residency is about outer space and environmental issues in outer space. And they've paired up artists with science historians to, over the course of 3 months or so, develop some projects as you're having conversations and doing research and going to talks about, outer space and what's happening with space junk and mining the moon for profit and what have you. Mm-hmm. And so, on International Space Day, which is April 12th, there's going to be a big presentation and an online exhibition. And I'm doing a project with Out Boulder, the LGBTQ organization in Boulder, for Night of Noise, which is April 23rd. It's an event that follows the Day of Silence, which is a national event raising awareness about bullying of LGBTQ youth in K through 12 schools. So that is coming together, but it might be probably a public sculpture, maybe in downtown Boulder on Pearl Street, up for a couple of weeks before the Night of Noise. And the new issue of Daria is out. So check your local museum or gallery. I haven't distributed them to Boulder yet, but I'm going to. But this Saturday, there's going to be a huge snowstorm. So I'm worried I may not make it this Saturday, but that was my original plan. I might have to just sneak up on Friday. But if you do want a copy, you can reach out to me. I can mail one to you or tell you where to get one.
I saw some up at the BMOCA.
Oh, maybe someone grabbed some and brought them there.
Yeah, they're there.
Wonderful, cool.
I also actually have an audience question about Daria, so maybe it's a good time to jump in with that, and then we'll go over to MG. Sure. The question was just about, tell us a little bit more about what Daria is and how we can get involved.
Sure. Yeah, it's a a magazine that's documenting the art scene in Denver and the Front Range. So going up to Fort Collins, at least, I was pretty much thinking an hour's drive from Denver. Doesn't include Colorado Springs yet, but it will. And it's, yeah, generally online, I try to publish one art exhibition review each week. And then the print issue comes out March 1st, July 1st, and November 1st each year. Yeah, it's really a way to have more art writing, to give more art writers a place to publish their work and to do in-depth reviews of exhibitions. The print review also includes an artist profile. The most recent issue has a profile of Alejandra Abad, who is a CU Boulder MFA student, art student as well. And yeah, to get involved, you can email or reach out through Instagram. The email is dariaartmagazine@gmail.com. I think it's Daria Art Magazine on Instagram too. But yeah, I am able to pay writers and pay for printing right now. So if you have an interest in writing, yeah, let me know. And actually during the month of April, we're gonna have an art writing workshop through Lighthouse Writers Workshop that
awesome.
People can actually sign up for. It'll be a 4-week workshop where you can sort of polish your art writing and work on your art writing voice, learn more about the art scene, and potentially publish your final product in the magazine.
That's so cool. We would love to promote that through our newsletter also. I feel like that would be a great thing to plug for our community as well. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I should have it all the details by the end of this week, so I'll pass them on.
Amazing. That's so great. Perfect. Okay, and then MG, I want to not forget you. Where can we find you? What are you working on? Tell us more about your residency.
Sure. I'm driving down to New Orleans. It's been a very long drive. I'm so tired. But yeah. So it's a 5-month residency at the Joan Mitchell Center. I spend like half my time in Denver and half my time in New Orleans. That's where I'm originally from, and that's where my family is from. It's like kind of like my ultimate goal is to be there in Denver simultaneously somehow. And yeah, I'm hoping to work on some more performance projects. And yeah, just continue. I guess like one of my art projects that I'm working on right now is gaudily bejeweling some mirrors, making this big series of yeah, kind of reminiscent of a work I did, I think in 2019, of making reliquaries for my blood that comes out of my lungs. So yeah, so just bejeweling mirrors so that viewers can see themselves as an altar. I'm really into altars and that kind of stuff. Yeah, and just for FemSale, we are working on publishing our first art journal issue at the end of March. So right now we're getting all the essays together and editing them and getting the site all prepared. Yeah, just I think those are like my main things.
Awesome. And I just have 2 final audience questions to add in, and then we'll wrap up. The first one that I have is for Paula. Could Paula tell us more about her process in the creation of her digital collages?
Well, I live with a person who collects things, and so I have like a huge archive to pull from. So my husband collects books on space or books on Russian art, or he has 30 Fortune magazines from the 30s. So I have this great resource. And what I do is I use a copy stand and a Nikon camera. So I actually photograph elements from books, and then I kind of put them in categories in my computer, like I'll have women or factories or architecture, and then I'll just start looking at them and kind of thinking about pulling them together. I've also, this is kind of recent for me, I'm also thinking about the landscape. So a lot of these collages have like a horizon line, and what's great about a lot of the NASA imagery is that I can pull things that are public domain, and a lot of times they're high resolution. So a lot of the space imagery is very cool because it has this very kind of bright light and this black sky sometimes. So basically, I was a photo editor for about 20 years in New York City. So I know a lot about public domain sources and NASA and Library of Congress. So I'm careful. Like a lot of my things are either out of copyright or I get them from public domain sources, and then I kind of combine them in the computer. And okay, I'm trying to do it more, but I would say a third of the images have people that I've photographed as well.
Awesome. Final question is about the rough gems process. So this one is for Genevieve and MG. What would you say to somebody who is thinking about applying to rough gems, and what was the process of creating the exhibition like?
Yeah, the proposal was a single PDF with a lot of information. So that took a bit of time to compile.
Yeah, I think just thinking about your artists and providing images of your art, of the artist's artworks and titles. And then I think we just had like a little paragraph, right? About what we would want to present.
Yeah, we had a sort of a conceptual theme description, and then images of each artist's work with a description of their work too, of their concepts as well. But yeah, when it came to actually putting together the exhibition, Ari worked with us and created a timeline and lots of deadlines. And sort of it was a good learning process too, to see how the gallery is run behind the scenes, artist contracts, and creating a mock-up of the exhibition layout ahead of time. Knowing what the measurements of the walls were, which walls can be moved, which walls can't be moved, knowing that, what resources the gallery had, including the 6 screens that we used for our exhibition, which I think we found out only one exhibition so far at Union Hall has used all those screens. So that was fun to have that option. And then a supplemental program was part of the proposal. So our digital zine ended up being our supplemental program, but I think there's a lot of creative things you can do with that part of the exhibition too. And if you've seen the other Rough Gem shows, I saw the ones last year, or was it last year? I think it was last year.
First year doing it, yeah.
Yeah, that gave me some ideas. So I definitely recommend seeing the current year's shows to see how the show is laid out, which artists are included, the brochure that Jess from Union Hall designed that's really nice with the statement, the layout of the exhibition, artist names, titles, work dates. It can kind of give you some ideas about how to put something together that would work well in the space and be an interesting show.
Yeah, there are just so many moving parts, and to pull off an exhibition, that's 3 weeks long, and doing all the planning and prep that comes, with that is a pretty enormous feat. So thank you to you both, and to also Paula and Emily for being here, and to all the artists in your exhibition for contributing their work. It's been so fun to work with you all, and to get to learn more about all of your work and see it come to life in the space. It's one of the coolest things that we do during the year, I think, is getting over to getting to turn over, you know, a large chunk of our calendar to guest curators. It's super important to us, and it's such a pleasure to get to meet and work with people like you. So thank you all. And thank you to everyone who joined us this evening for the talk. And just final plugs here at the end. Mirror Mirror is on view through Saturday, March 20th. You can make a reservation to come and see the show in person. We're doing distancing, masks, cleaning, and timed reservations. And you can go to www.unionhalldenver.org where you can make a reservation. You can see all kinds of supplementary materials about the exhibitions. And yeah, stay tuned for more updates on Union Hall and for Rough Gems. Next year, we're going to be starting our, since we have some questions about that, we're going to be starting our application process a little bit earlier and offering some kind of seminars and a little bit more content like earlier in the year to give people a chance to kind of run their concepts by us and get their questions answered. So thank you again, all of you, for being here. This was so lovely. And
Thank you for having us.
yeah, I hope everybody has a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.